Alright, Diablo players, let's go over it. This is going to be the build guide for the brand new Season 11 Dance of Knives build with a brand new unique called the Death's Pavane. So what these pants allow you to do is basically just get more damage with Dance of Knives, but also gives you a big boost to survivability with its implicit over here, granting you dodge chance while channeling Dance of Knives. It's actually a pretty good amount of bonus survivability, plus it also gives you critical strike chance and also movement speed, which is quite nice. It does sort of have a gimmick, just as a heads up in terms of the gameplay playstyle. How it works is that Dance of Knives is going to drop from enemies that you hit. If you pick them up, you can gain a charge, and you can get up to 3 charges to go up to 60x damage, giving you 20x per additional knife that you actually pick up. But basically, you're going to have that up pretty much most of the time. You'll see it in the game. They're like kind of like yellow or like a golden color when you hit the enemies. Do you really have to pick it up? To be honest, in open world content is really not that big of a deal, and this is where the build excels. I also want to mention really quick, we did drop a build guide that did go over a Pit 150 and a Tower 150. It was like a gameplay showcase of the build where it was doing negative damage numbers. Now, that was a bug. That was something that just recently got fixed. So if you're wondering, can it do infinite damage now? It has gotten nerfed, but this is still going to be pretty much the build that people will go to with Season 11's brand new unique. This is the brand new thing that Rogue got, so this is going to be the build guide for it. Do I think it is the best Rogue build in the entire game? I would still say that right now Death Trap is still looking to be very good. However, all builds in general are going to be heavily nerfed going to the season. I want to say right now Blizzard's probably looking at like Pit 70 as kind of like the new premium end for a lot of the good builds. Like, you're barely hitting like Pit 70, 80s, even really pushing it with certain builds. There's going to be very few builds that will be able to even do Pit 100, at least as of right now, even with like Mythics. Like right now, just keep your expectations realistic with any build. It's not like, oh, this build is bad or this build is really good. There's very few builds that are going to be super strong in the next upcoming season. I don't expect any build to be able to realistically do 150, just to keep your guys' expectations realistic going in with this build, with the most recent update, which just got nerfed, which was like yesterday. Anyways, for starters, as far as the build goes, let's go over how the build plays, as well as kind of the new updates, because there's another update with Star Shards that lets you actually get combo points, which will actually give you even more damage. So for starters, we are actually playing hybrid because there's a new bonus with Aspect of the Elements that will cycle between these two elements, and it can actually stack. So this is actually a pretty good thing to run, because physical and the cold, poison, and shadow are actually separated. The reason why this is actually important, because you can play any of the elements that you want with your imbue. However, physical, since it's separate from all of those, we get the multiplier regardless of what it rolls on elements. We get the bonus, which is updated in Season 11. So as far as the skills go, you do want to ramp up your damage with puncture or any sort of basic skill. That way you can build up your combo points, because in this build we will be playing combo points. And then we are going to be playing, of course, Dance of Knives. We activate this for damage. Then we have our Dark Shroud for damage reduction. We have Shadow Clone for even more damage. And then we also have Shadow Imbuement, or you can run Cold Imbuement. You can run Poison Imbuement. If you're wondering which one is better, the Poison one will heavily require you to swap different things on your Paragon board. And I would probably recommend doing Cold as well as doing Shadow. So Shadow is the best for speed clearing because it explodes. Cold is really good for single target DPS. Poison can actually be pretty good for DPS as well, but it does kind of have like a tick rate, right? That's normal in any of those builds. But with Creeping Death, it is actually pretty potent as well. So you can run any of them. They're all actually pretty good right now. They all have, they're kind of niche, but Shadow is better for clearing content, which you're going to be doing obviously with the newest update. There's a lot of different changes to like the Helltide. We have now different zones really for each specific boss, so you're gonna do a lot more open world content. So my suggestion is Shadow, because Dance of Knives is a build all around doing speed content. And then we just have Dash. This allows us to kind of just activate for extra mobility, but it also is another agility skill which we need to activate to kind of snapshot. So to explain the snapshot, basically you want to build up your combo points, so you have 3 combo points ready, and then you want to make sure that you activate Shadow Clone, you want to activate your Dash, and then Shadow Imbuement. The reason why is Dash will consume one of your imbues, but it doesn't really matter. Once everything's snapshotted, you just go forever, and then once your Shadow Clone wears off, you want to redo the whole combo. The reason why you kind of need to do this gimmick is because, well, you're going to get the most damage because you can get a bonus after you activate your ultimate, and you scale ultimate damage, and that will scale all of your damage because it gives you just a generic multiplier. And then obviously we are going to be playing combo points. So as far as the gear goes, you can run Air Perdition or the Harlequin. Both are great options in Season 11. Keep in mind, some of the masterworking, it's all kind of different now. Doesn't really matter too much what you get as far as the greater affix, because, well, it's kind of a mythic, so most people don't really care too much about it. However, now in Season 11, you can basically reroll it. Ideally, you get critical strike chance, or movement speed, or lucky hit chance. They're all pretty good stats. Core skills is basically not needed anymore. And then Shroud of False Death is going to be the best in the slot over here for the chest piece, or Tierlist. Tierlist is actually pretty good. Then we run Grasp of Shadow. This is really great because it gives you attack speed, critical strike chance, as well as ultimate damage, which then fulfills the bonuses required for your Paragon board. But then on top of that, you also get ranks to your Marksman and Cutthroat skill, and, well, this is a Cutthroat skill. And then we run Manglers. This applies a Daze. Ideally, you can also get maximum life here. It's kind of weird. All the build planners are kind of scuffed right now because you can't put in the correct stats, because now things roll with 4, but I'll be updating the planners once the new season comes out, because not every website has the updates yet. But the reason why we play this is because in the tree over here, every time we attempt to daze or stun an enemy, it's going to increase our critical strike chance and our damage. So we're going to be really investing into that. And then with the pants, like I mentioned before, it's Death's Pavane. Ideally, greater affix on the Dance of Knives, but it doesn't really matter too much because you basically get everything 2GA'd now. But yeah, that's what we want to go for the pants. And then we play Aspect of the Star Shards in the two-hander here. So the reason why we put it in the two-hander is it does physical damage, which you can actually run Chip as well, because Chip, even though it's physical damage, it boosts all your damage. But the reason why we play Star Shards here is because that damage that we get will be multiplied times 2 because it is a two-hander. And then on top of that, one thing to note with this is that it does physical damage. That's why I was saying with the elements, we can now, no matter what roll it gives, which is fire, lightning, and physical, that's category 1. Category 2 is cold, poison, and shadow. So no matter what, you win. It doesn't matter what it rolls in, because it got a pretty nice buff. As far as the difference in the tempers, the only thing that's really important is that chance for the Dance of Knife projectiles to do double damage. The other roll, because remember, you can only have one temper on, the other roll, just any offensive stat is totally fine. It really doesn't matter which one you get. You can get flat damage, you can get crit damage, vulnerable damage, just choose whatever. You are kind of forced to run Umbers here if you want to automatically have Dark Shrouds, which I personally like to. You can throw in another offensive stat if you want to. You do not run Ring of the Starless Skies because you can't spend resources in the build. I tried running the Cax Rune, it was just very inconsistent. But also getting offensive critical strike chance is good for Cutthroat if you want to temper that on. But any sort of passives are really great over here. And then we don't really have that many good just generic aspects because we play physical and we also do the shadow or elemental damage. If you do, you can throw in Cold Clip. There's tons of other ones for specific elements, but the generic one that I want to cover in this build guide goes over everything, so you can just run Intercom or any other ones that you prefer. Then we run elements. Again, this one is you gotta play this one. This one is really good. And then the other ones, we could play Apogeic Furor, we could play Edgemasters, we can also play Doombringer, because in this season, everything kind of makes your build feel kind of squishy once you start going into the higher tiers of the pit, but ideally, you want to try to get Dance of Knives to do double damage, but once you reach a certain point where you have in total 100%, then you can actually get Shadow Clone to deal double damage, which is great because you want that up the whole time. I also want to mention there is kind of a bug. I'm hoping they'll fix it. So Grasp of Shadow has this bug where when you cast the skill, it will then activate that 40 to 80% chance to summon the little clone. However, if you're holding it down, it will never activate again. But Shadow Clone will just reactivate every few moments anyway, so that's really cool. So hopefully they can fix out that bug. I mean, I'll let Blizzard know because I want to play this build. Dance of Knives is kind of one of my favorite builds in the game. The only thing that sucks with it is doors. Doors really suck with this because then you have to re-snapshot everything, but I already explained the combo with that. Anyways, next up, as far as the skill tree, let's go ahead and go over that. So in the very beginning, doesn't really matter which one you choose, you just need to push it. I'd recommend a ranged one though. And then you want to get this critically striking enemy, gives you more movement speed, we get damage reduction, we get extra critical strike chance, and then we want the disciplined Dance of Knives. We're going to slam all of our points into this over here, and that is going to grant us the slow here. That's why we want this one. And then we can put a point into dash. If you want to run Shadow Step, that's fine as well. Weapon Mastery and Trick Attacks, just like in every single build. You can also get Rugged. It's not a bad stat to actually get, or this. this. These are both okay stats for more survivability. The unstable elixirs, as well as the other one over here where you can get more damage after you evade, these are okay to grab. I'm just really lazy. I don't want to try to snapshot like too many different things, because then I have to drink a potion, then I have to do a little dodge roll. It's just too many gimmicks. I just like putting these in because it's just automatic. And then we play Agile. Then I put some points into Evasive. Evasive is really good because remember, you get that flat dodge in the build. So now after you dodge, you get extra damage reduction. And then we have Dark Shroud giving us extra critical strike chance. And then we have Malice over here, which is going to get us extra damage as well as with Exploit. And then we play Shadow Imbuement. There's optional if you want to grab this Shadow Crash, which you can actually stun the enemies, which can then activate an additional daze. Then you can swap out your boots in terms of that aspect if you want to. That is another option. You can play something like the other pair of boots that can give you that freeze as you like walk the chilled ground, called the Penitent Greaves. Yeah, these ones are excellent because it gives you extra critical strike chance, and then it does also slow the enemy. And then if you want to, you could also invest into Frigid Finesse regardless if you have any chill or not. The reason why is because once the boss is staggered, they are treated as chilled, frozen, and everything. So you can still get Frigid Finesse, or if you want to run Shadow Crash, that's cool too. I just max this thing out because I really like having the extra critical strike chance against the enemies affected by it. There's a huge nerf because you do not have the ability to masterwork all of your crit. It's a lot harder to get 100% in Season 11, so this helps out as well as give you another source of vulnerability, as you can run Exploit and you can also rely on this. If you want to do Poison, that's good, as well as Cold. Honestly, all of them are good. Play the one that you want though. And then we play Impetus over here, so after moving you gain extra damage. It says when this damage bonus is ready, because we're not going to cast a core ultimate skill consistently, so you get like a bonus, like a 15x damage. We also play Shadow Clone, and we have some extra regen because again, the game is a little bit more tough. Having that extra recovery is quite nice to have. And then this one over here, we don't need energy, but having haste is good because movement speed is nice. I really enjoy Momentum. Honestly, you could play a couple different ones, but I really like this one, giving you that movement speed, and you get damage and you get damage reduction. These are all fantastic stats. Next up, as far as the powers go, so the powers in Season 11 are pretty weak. The only one that like heavily is going to be benefiting your build is the increased movement speed. That way you don't really have your Dance of Knives fall off. But there's also Fortification, increased resistances, and then there's immunity to crowd control once every 12 seconds, which is kind of nice. But as far as it goes, you can totally play this build on Eternal. I didn't even use the powers in the gameplay. But next up, as far as the runes go, we're going to be running Bach and Zek to help us out with our cooldown on our ultimate, and then Neo and then Vex over here for additional skill points. And then for the gems, it's going to be pretty much the same. It's going to be emeralds, and then what we ideally try to also get is trying to get diamonds or skulls in the jewelry is going to be advantageous for us. It just kind of depends on your stats. But as far as the Paragon board, we're going to be starting off with Exploit. This is really good because it makes your damage feel really good and big up front. So if you want, you could also play a lucky hit chance to apply vulnerability. Our Shadow Imbue will also apply vulnerability, but this just activates it immediately, and this build is heavily emphasized on speed content, so this really helps out. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go into the Dance Macabre and get versatility. So when we get this buff is when we use a mobility skill, so we just activate our dash or subterfuge, which can be our Dark Shroud. This is going to help us get another bonus. And then we are going to be running versatility, so it's non-basic and non-core skills over here, getting it basically a big little multiplier for the skill. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into Exploit Weakness with Closer. So this just gives us a bonus for our Cutthroat skills, and well, we use Cutthroat skills to deal our damage, so it's kind of nice to also get that small amount of damage reduction. And then we go into No Witness with Combat. This is why we do stack our ultimate like damage here, which you're just going to get from the gloves as well as just getting this ultimate damage. And this is going to give us up to 60x increased damage when we activate our ultimate that applies to all of our skills. There is another option that we can go for instead if you want to, which we'll talk about in a second. And there's also Cheap Shot with Headhunter over here, so this just increased damage against crowd controlled. You get a flat amount and then again it gets doubled. So you will automatically apply the slow, so that's just like free DPS over there. And then we also play Headhunter because we get increased damage to the elites here. Now again, there's a few different options that you can go for, and I'm going to go ahead and go over them because if you don't want to play the like dual elements, there's a lot of different things that you can do, especially if you want to play like, let's say like a cold version of the build. Let me go ahead and go over that. So if you want to, you can heavily choose whatever element that you want to lead into. Then swap your aspect of Star Shards to basically the one-hander here. So you can go with Eldritch Bounty, which gives you a bunch of bonus damage over here with your Poison, Shadow, and Cold. So you can run this if you want to. If you're wondering which one would you swap, I would say that No Witness, just so you can have a smoother experience if you want to go for that. But almost every rogue build definitely wants to play the Shadow Clone, but you could swap whatever one that you want. And then anything that's going to give you whatever your damage is going to be. So Canny is going to apply to all of the non-physical, which will cover your Poison, your Cold, and your Shadow damage. So you can also go for Canny if you want to. If you want to go physical only, you can also go into Chip, but it's kind of up to you what you want to go for. If you want to go Poison, then you'd want to run the, I think it's called like Bane, and there's also another one which is called a Tracker. So there's like a couple for like Poison. Yeah, Bane as well as the Tracker. If you want to play a Poison version of the build, then I would drop like, let's say, Headhunter, but this is the one that you're seeing in the gameplay. But again, yeah, you can play any of the different elements that you want to and have some fun with this build, guys. Again, Season 11 is looking to be a lot nerfed down from Season 10 in terms of how much DPS that you can output, but the build is still very good. You guys are seeing we're just doing, this is obviously T4 content. We're still able to melt stuff in T4 in the open world, but as far as bossing goes, most builds in general, okay, aren't really going to be like one-shotting bosses, so keep your expectations realistic going into the new season. But yeah, that's basically the new Dance of Knives rogue, and that's kind of how it is looking like right now in the current state of the game. Will it be the top tier rogue build? I would say, honestly, Death Trap does a lot more damage overall. However, for speed, this is still going to be really good. This and Flurry are probably going to be the more popular builds. There is another way to play Dance of Knives, which revolves around Poison Trap, but I wanted to build it using the brand new tool. So let me know, guys, if you guys have any other suggestions for the build down below, as it's kind of in its infancy. But we'll see if Blizzard decides to buff the build up, because I definitely think that it needs buffs. In fact, I think every single class needs some massive buffs going into Season 11, because everything is too nerfed to the point where it makes it really difficult, even with Mythics, to really delete the bosses like we used to, but maybe they don't want us to do that. So anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you guys enjoyed it, drop a like. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out. And I'll update you guys if there's something new to the build, and the planner will be linked in the bio as well as in the pin.